Everyone who ruined their 30s did the exact same thing. They listened. Right now, you're about to discover why the most successful 38-year-olds did absolutely nothing their friends recommended. Why does following conventional wisdom in your 30s guarantee you'll wake up at 40 with regret? What secret are people who thrive in their 30s hiding behind their balanced life posts? How many years of your prime decade are you about to waste on someone else's blueprint? What if the biggest mistake of your 30s is trying to win at life? There's a reason nobody tells you this until it's too late. Marcus stared at his laptop at 2:17 a.m. on a Tuesday, calculating whether he could afford both his mortgage and his daughter's daycare next month. 34 years old, six-figure salary, and somehow broker than when he made 40K. His third cup of coffee had gone cold hours ago. His wife was asleep upstairs, exhausted from managing her own career crisis. The promotion he'd killed himself for came with responsibilities that aged him 5 years in 5 months. His college friends posted about their morning meditation routines, while he couldn't remember the last time he saw sunrise without already being at his desk. The advice was always the same: hustle harder, invest smarter, network better. But Marcus kept wondering why doing everything right felt like drowning in slow motion. Why did the people who seemed happiest in their late 30s all have stories about walking away from something everyone else wanted? Something was backwards. Completely backwards. Most people never realize their 30s aren't about building up, they're about tearing down. But before I explain why, you need to understand something that will change how you see everything. Every spectacularly fulfilled 40-year-old has the same story. They don't talk about what they achieved in their 30s. They talk about what they quit, what they stopped caring about, what they finally admitted was never their dream to begin with. But here's what nobody expects. The most successful decade of your life isn't when you do the most. It's when you do the least of the wrong things. There's a brutal psychological truth about human development that explains why your 30s feel impossible, why everyone seems to be having a crisis at 35, why the advice from your 20s suddenly makes everything worse. You're not falling behind. You're playing a completely different game with the wrong rulebook, and everybody knows it except you. Wait, because what I'm about to reveal next will make you question every decision you've made this year. This comes from Dr. Meg J., but not from the book everyone quotes. It's from a recording most people will never hear. She was speaking to therapists about why she really stopped treating 30-somethings. She discovered something that made her question everything about adult development. Something that contradicted her own famous advice about defining decades. Your 30s aren't a defining decade, they're a destroying decade. She found that every single one of her thriving 40-year-old former patients had deliberately destroyed something significant in their 30s. A career they'd built, a relationship everyone envied, an identity that looked perfect from the outside. The pattern was so consistent it scared her. But here's the part nobody talks about. The ones who destroyed nothing? Who held on to everything they'd built in their 20s? They were back in therapy at 42, paying thousands to figure out why success felt like failure. I used to think this was just theory, until I discovered what actually happens in your brain that makes this inevitable. Your brain literally rewires itself around age 32, not metaphorically, literally. The prefrontal cortex completes its final development phase, and suddenly, your brain stops caring about what's possible and starts caring about what's meaningful. But here's the twist that changes everything. Your life is still built on decisions you made with an incomplete brain. Let that sink in for a second. Every major commitment you've made, your career path, probably chosen at 22, your relationship patterns, formed in your mid-20s, your financial strategy, based on what mattered when your brain literally couldn't comprehend mortality the way it does now. Scientists call it the authenticity crisis. Your fully developed brain starts rejecting everything that isn't genuinely yours, but society tells you to double down, to commit harder, to push through. What if that restlessness you feel isn't failure? What if it's your brain screaming at you to stop living someone else's life? But wait, before you quit everything, there's something even more disturbing about this discovery. The research shows that people who don't honor this rewiring, who push through and stay on the same path, don't just stay unhappy, their brains begin to physically deteriorate faster, as if forcing yourself to live inauthentically literally ages you at the cellular level. The biggest mistake people make in their 30s isn't choosing wrong, it's refusing to unchoose. Right now, 73% of 39-year-olds report feeling trapped in decisions they made a decade ago. Nearly 3/4 of people ending their 30s are living in prisons they built themselves. The career they can't leave because of the mortgage, the relationship they can't exit because of the kids, the lifestyle they can't change because everyone expects them to have it figured out. You know what the number one regret of 45-year-olds is? Not making dramatic changes at 35. Not the changes themselves, the not making them. But here's the cost nobody calculates. Every year you spend in your 30s living someone else's version of success, you lose 2 years of authentic living in your 40s. Because you have to spend your 40s undoing what you reinforced in your 30s. If this is hitting different than every other piece of advice you've heard, drop a comment with just the word finally, because you're getting something most people never will. The math is brutal. If you spend 5 years from 33 to 38 pushing through instead of pivoting, you won't find yourself until 48. You'll have given away your entire prime decade to fear. And the worst part? Everyone around you is doing the exact same thing. Your friends are all pretending their anxiety is normal. Your colleagues are medicating their authenticity crisis with promotions. Your family is projecting their fears onto your choices. I need to tell you something I wish someone had told me. You have permission to disappoint everyone who loved the old version of you. Actually, let me say that differently. You have an obligation to disappoint them, because the alternative is disappointing the person you're becoming. But how do you actually do without destroying everything? That's where this gets interesting. Here's the 3-layer system that people who thrive in their 30s accidentally discover. And once you see how simple it is, you'll be angry nobody told you sooner. Layer 1 is what I call the inventory audit. Every thriving 38-year-old did this around 33, usually without realizing what they were doing. They listed everything in their life that required maintenance: job, relationships, home, hobbies, commitments, even friendships. Then they asked one question that changed everything. If I had to rebuild my life from scratch today, would I choose this? If you've ever felt guilty about fantasizing about a completely different life, you're already halfway there. But here's where it gets interesting. Layer 2 is the controlled demolition. This is what nobody prepares you for. You don't add your way to an authentic life in your 30s. You subtract, but not randomly, strategically. The people who nail their 30s don't quit everything at once. They identify what researchers call keystone commitments. The 1 or 2 things that, if removed, would force everything else to reorganize. Usually, it's not what you think. It's not the job. It's the identity attached to the job, not the relationship. It's the story you tell about why you need it. If you've ever felt like changing one thing would unravel everything, congratulations. You've found your keystone. But there's one more layer that makes this whole system work. Layer 3 is what I call the permission protocol. This is the part that sounds simple, but breaks most people. Every morning, before checking your phone, before the world tells you who to be, you ask yourself one question. What do I have permission to want today? Not what you should want, not what makes sense to want. What do you have permission to want? The answer changes everything. Because most of us spend our 30s wanting what we had permission to want at 25, but that permission expired. Your brain knows it. Your body knows it. Only your habits haven't gotten the memo. Here's the revolutionary part that nobody sees coming. When all 3 layers work together, something magical happens. The life you subtract from becomes more successful than the life you were adding to. Because authenticity is literally more efficient than performance. Let me tell you what actually happens when you implement this. And I'm warning you, the first part is terrifying. First few weeks, pure terror. You'll feel like you're destroying everything. Your brain will scream that you're making a mistake. Everyone will ask if you're okay. You're not okay. You're becoming okay. There's a difference. Then comes the void. The space where your old life was feels empty. You'll want to fill it immediately. Don't. This void is where your authentic self has room to emerge. If you've ever felt lost but oddly peaceful, you're in the void. Stay there. Around week 9, something strange happens. The first authentic desire appears. Something you actually want, not something you should want. It will seem too simple, too easy, too obvious. That's how you know it's real. Your authentic desires are embarrassingly simple compared to your performed ones. After 3 months, you'll notice something that sounds insane, but isn't. You're accomplishing more by doing less. Your relationships are deeper with fewer people. Your work is better with half the effort. Because alignment is literally less exhausting than performance. I watched this happen to Jennifer. She was 36, left her CMO position to become a high school teacher. Her income dropped 70%. Her life satisfaction increased 300%. But here's the plot twist nobody saw coming. Within 2 years, she was making more than her CMO salary through consulting. Because authenticity is magnetic in ways performance never is. David went through something similar at 34. Ended his perfect marriage, lost the house, split custody, disappointed everyone. 18 months later, he met someone who loved who he actually was, not who he pretended to be. His kids like him, better divorced and real than married and performing. You're not becoming someone new in your 30s. You're revealing who you always were before the world convinced you to be someone else. But I haven't told you the most important part yet, the thing that makes all of this actually work. Here's my challenge to you. Tonight, before you sleep, write down one thing in your life that would terrify you to change. Just one. The thing that if you changed it, people would think you've lost your mind. That thing? That's your keystone. You don't have to change it tomorrow. You don't have to change it at all. But acknowledge it. Because the moment you admit what's not working, you begin the process of becoming who you actually are. If you're ready to stop performing your life and start living it, subscribe and join thousands of us who are brave enough to disappoint everyone except ourselves. Because here's the truth about your 30s that nobody will tell you. The biggest mistake isn't making the wrong choice. It's making everyone else's right choice. Your 30s aren't about having it all. They're about finally admitting what you never wanted in the first place. In the next video, I'm revealing exactly how to have the conversations that change everything. The ones you've been avoiding. The ones that set you free. You're not the same person who started watching this. You know something now that most people don't learn until it's too late. The question is, what are you going to do with it? The clock is ticking, but for the first time, it's ticking in your favor. Welcome to your real 30s.